Well, I'm happily here with Lainey Brown. Hi, Lainey Brown.
Hello.
How are you?
Good to be here.
Pattie McCarthy has joined us as well.
Hello.
And Kate Colby. We're going to talk about a poem by Pattie McCarthy in this marvelous book, Wifthing. But we're only going to talk about one poem. We're not going to talk about the whole book because that's what we do. And Kate Colby has picked out one that she particularly likes, which is on page 18 of the book.
Marjorie Kempthing. She cries because the sky is between them. The stars are in the way of your face, she says. Marjorie Kemp, you need to eat something. The full plate's lined up before you on the bar, and I know all about Patience, a shipwreck, no virgin, inordinately loved his body. 38 years I lived with overlapped my husband closed curves within an enclosing rectangle in which the daily crossword passed between us at breakfast. I can think of no words today where, there, I can not remember how to get from there to there. They're there now. These cryings are excessive when she sees a man hit a child or a horse.
First question for all of you. We have a third person referred to as she, and we have a first person. Does it matter if we think of them as wives? And if we do, what is the effect? Lainey, you want to start us off?
Well, I think the she and the I, there's a roving speaker that could be both Marjorie Kemp and could be a person in the present tense who is also meditating on domesticity and many other things in the poem.
Good start. Pattie, what do you think?
I thought that the I and the she were different people. Whether they're both wives, I think, well, that's up to you. But I did think that they were different people.
There is a reference to my husband.
Yes.
So there's that, and living together 38 years. Kate, you want to add to this?
Well, to be really basic about it, the book is called Wifething. So I certainly read this poem and all of the poems as about wifing.
So I've got another question. Does it matter that it's a sonnet? And I guess the second question is there a relationship between the wife thing and the constraint?
Yes, there is definitely a relationship between the restraint and the form. My children were very young when I started writing this book. There was a lot to do. There wasn't a lot of time, and so the sonnet was a manageable form.
Can you say more about that and that relation to the sonnet?
Pattie said it so well, the space of the sonnet, it's small, it's brevity, but then you're already in a project and you can keep going.
Yeah.
Why is the series so compelling for sonneteers?
Well, I want to go back actually to something you said about Lainey's daily sonnets and talking about mothering, and I want to give my daughter Fanula credit for the stars are in the way of your face. And thinking back to actually a conversation that Lainey and I had once about the sonnet, and she said, because I wrote it down in my notebook, she said the problem is time, right? And so thinking about time and the sonnet sequence, and for me, I have to always be in the middle of something. If I'm not in the middle of a project, I get very antsy, very nervous. And so the sequence feels very comfortable.
So do you want to just go on about this issue?
Well, one nice thing about the sonnet sequence is it modulates, which feels very much like my experience of the time of mothering. And I was also thinking about how she's borrowed this ancient form and the way in which she's collapsed the time between Marjorie Kemp and our time, sort of like vellum overlays on an overhead projector.
I have another round of questions for you, and then we'll do final words. This is a sonnet that, because of the harried, time-constraining life led by the speaker, goes from the conventional articulateness of the particularly male tradition of sonneting, and on the other hand, a sonnet that it can include articulateness as part of the articulateness the form is famous for. That is just brilliant because it's a reference to the writing itself. It's a reference to the problem of the sonnet for a woman who has a full life otherwise outside the sonnet. I'd love to hear the three of you comment on this moment.
The word there functions in so many ways, not remember how to get from there to there. So the there and the there are not defined there. So we could read it as, how do I physically get from this space to this space? How do I emotionally or intellectually progress in my poem, right? So there's multiple ways. And then there, it could be another voice that's comforting the Marjorie Kemp or the speaker of the poem. But it can also be this disapproving public.
I mean, but to me, the nightmare of I cannot remember how to get from there to there is if both those theres are the same place, actually, right? And then as Lainey was saying, that they're there now, to me, reads very dismissively, right? I mean, that Marjorie Kemp, manifested her mysticism in these kind of full-bodied public cryings, right? And that was the public language that was available to her.
And there's also Kate Colby, the sonnet with its reputation of inexorable progress because of rhyme schemes and meter.
Well, and there to there, it's like a stutter or broken record. And then these cryings becomes that kind of like keening of the stuckness.
Beautiful. Okay, so final thoughts. Something you want to say about this one poem of many in this book?
I want to come back to the stars are in the way of your face. The opening line, she cries because the sky is between them. The stars are in the way of your face. So one way I read it is the Marjorie Kemp looking up at the heavens and crying because, the sky is in between her and this idea of divinity. In other words, it's invisible.
Wonderful, thank you. Pattie, final thought?
I just want to give Marjorie Kemp credits and thanks for inordinately loved his body. Because Marjorie Kemp talks her husband into a chaste marriage, into letting her take a vow of chastity after 14 children, right? But she says, but I did inordinately love his body. He says to her, well, if, armed men were to break in here and say, sleep with your husband again or we'll kill him. He says, would you suffer me to meddle with you again? And she says, I would pray for your departed soul.
Kate, can you top that?
Oh, I just wanted to mention that you need to eat something, which I love so much, and the way that the speaking subject and the object of the speech, they sort of move and shift through the whole poem.
This poem is a sonnet in a series, among series in this book, Marjorie Kemp Thing, and the book is called Wifthing or Wifthing by Pattie McCarthy, who's here with us, published by Apogee Press, and the woodcut on the front was made by
James Mundy, Mundie, James Mundy.
Absolutely beautiful.
Lovely, yeah.
Thank you all for
Thank
doing
you so
this.
much.
This was great.
Thank you.